It is week 2 of the NFL season, a home opener for the Los Angeles Rams, who come to this one after a very impressive week 1 road win in Seattle. They come back not just 1-0 on the season, Kirk, they come back 1-0 in the NFC West. And they get, as you just heard, the San Francisco 49ers, who looked terrific in week 1. They have certainly been the thorn in the side of the Rams over the last several seasons. And this is an opportunity for the Rams to really make a statement today. You look a little bit like you looked last week up in Seattle. You find a way to beat San Francisco today, and you're off to the races. Yeah, I think it's a thing that you announce to the NFL that you're for real. It's not what a lot of the prognosticators and I think pundits in the offseason said the Rams are in a rebuild. They're in a reset of their football team. You win today against one of the elite teams in the National Football League. Get what we saw in week 1 from San Francisco 49ers. And from every power ranking, big power. I looked at them all this week, and the San Francisco 49ers are at the top of every single one. So this is a big test for the Rams. It's a big test for Sean McVay, obviously. But it's more important, I think it's a big test for the San Francisco football team. You see hits how well they played last week, and they carried it over again this week ahead. So last week was, I don't know if I want to use the word surprise, but I want to use the word, it was really good right out of the chute. Because this was a team of guys that we had not seen a lot during the preseason, right? We've seen a few, maybe a little bit more than we typically have in Sean McVay, but they hit the ground running. Matthew Stafford looked as good as he had since we saw him win the Super Bowl a couple of seasons before. And they put up points, and they prevented points, and it was just a great opening act. Joining us right now, the voice of the Rams, Ron Chippy. Good to see you again back at SoFi Stadium, and here we go for all of our 8 seasons ago.
Travis, as you know, I show up to parties early on the wrong day, so I'm not in your first segment. All right, I couldn't wait.
Yeah. I like it. So let's start right here. I surprised.
But how nice was it to see how sharp the Rams looked, especially on the offensive side of the football in week 1?
Yeah, I think it shifted my goalpost a little bit, not in terms of like, oh, this is a 10-win team now. They're going to go out there and win the NFC West. They might. But I'm not there. What I was, I think, refreshed by, what I found rejuvenating is the spirit with which they played, the confidence, the swagger with which they played. They showed up in Seattle at Lumen Field knowing they were the better team, knowing that if they did their part and executed, they were going to win that game. Now, this is a whole different animal today. We'll get to that. But I think it validated a lot of what the Rams were telling themselves and telling us, if you listen closely this offseason, which was, we're better than the power rankings that Kirk just referenced say we are. And we're going to grow over the course of this season. We may not be a finished product in September, but we're going to be a force to be reckoned with in December and maybe January.
Yeah, but I think, JB, you put it in perspective for everybody this week, and I had to steal one of your amazing posts, by the way. I will not overreact on week 1 games. I will not overreact on week 1 games because we have to tell ourselves that. But for me, I'm just still surprised and I'm shocked because the guys who we kept saying, hey, what if this guy takes the next step? What if this guy takes the next step? And if you had on your bingo card Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell being your leading receivers in week 1, I'm still as shocked to see how well they played in the scheme, and it looks like they were a perfect fit and that Sean McVay, they kind of know what they're doing.
I'm sure you remember what it was like to try and carve out your niche in the National Football League, right? How intentional, how hardworking you were in that first offseason, and even going into your second one, right? Because as much as we want to focus on the rookies, and I think that's right because they were super impressive, whether it was Abila at left guard or Nacua, Byron Young on the edge. I think a lot of it is year 2 or even year 3 growth like Tutu Atwell. It's hard to predict when that light is going to come on. For some, it never does. But the work that they put in, the intentionality that they showed, whether it's a rookie or a second-year guy or even someone getting a last chance or reinventing himself like a Michael Hoyt or even a Sean McVay, there was a fresh approach to that game plan and that execution. And who knows, maybe in the end result it'll say more about Seattle and where they're heading this year than the Los Angeles Rams. But we got another 2 hours to overreact, so let's live it up.
Let's continue to overreact a little bit, right? The overreaction to week 1, which could lead us to where we are right now. Not a chance just to go 2-0, but a chance to go 2-0 in the division, a chance to beat the team that's been the thorn in your side for the last several seasons along the way. And the 49ers, to use the power, they were the talk of the league last year, or last week, I should say, that this was the team that on both sides of the ball looked amazing. Brock Purdy looked like he picked up right where he left off. He still hasn't lost a regular season postseason football game. That how do the Rams find a way to kind of turn all those things back on San Francisco?
The nice thing about being here today is your two doesn't have to be better on paper. You just have to be better for these 3 hours in these 4 quarters, and that happens every week in the National Football League. Maybe it'll happen here today. Let's get weird, guys. We woke up and it was raining this morning.
It was, yes.
Okay?
That was
in
not my
September.
forecast.
So, let's play the September Super Bowl in the NFC West and see what happens. I don't know what that path to victory is. It's impossible to predict from this side of week 2, but I know that it's possible. But I'll also say that if you're waiting for Brock Purdy and the Niners to just put a clunker out there, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's fool's gold. You're going to have to take it to them, and where I rest is all off season long, we've been hearing about the disposition of this Rams group, and especially the offensive line being different, that they've got a tenacity to them, a different spirit. I think that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to punch the bully in the mouth today. So if you believe that and if you put in the work, put it on display today, because I think you're going to have to arm wrestle this one from them.
To me, it's still funny because at the end of last season, all the chatter, I think, around the league is that maybe Matthew Stafford's lost it. He's washed. He's just hurt. They're trying to, reduce his pay. They're trying to get rid of him. All this different stuff, right? But immediately when a quarterback goes down in the NFL, everyone's talking about, hey, Matthew Stafford.
Sure.
I'm like, why is he always the first one available? Because they realize how elite he is. And I thought last week was a perfect example of Matthew Stafford showing everybody, I still got it. Yeah. You protect for me. This is the result. And I know it's a bigger test today, but can he bring that same thing this week with this 49ers pass rush?
Again, a vision coming to reality and execution, right? They got bigger on the offensive line, especially guard to guard.
Correct.
I think they tried to do that previously, and it didn't quite pan out the way they thought, but they went back to it this year. Right. Avila makes a difference. Noteboom, a big athletic tackle playing guard. I was reminded that Matthew Stafford is the quintessential quarterback who needs a wall in front of him.
Yes.
When he can step forward, when he can hitch forward, he can hit every arm slot, every window, and every target on the field. He can throw it to all quadrants. He's not the guy who's going to spin out of a pocket, flip his hips.
Yeah.
Because those are in vogue, those are fun, and some teams around the league have those. Brock Purdy has some of that ability. He's really shifty. He's really quick. But yeah, I think the Niners will take the 49ers come in here liking their guy, but the Rams will take their chances with theirs. Mm-hmm. And some Bay Area radio guys were even trying to start something with me this week, like, hey, we read the pregame reports about the Jets making a move for Matthew Stafford before they got Aaron Rodgers. Now that Rodgers is down, is that phone ringing again? I'm like, hey, send Sam Darnold back to New York.
Yeah. They don't want to do that.
Ask the Jets if they want another Darnold.
I think they know what that
pass
is.
to Darnold.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, JB, I'm going to continue to overreact to what I saw in week 1. So we saw Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell look just terrific. I mean, just fantastic. Finally, Atwell, not just the home run hitter, but complete part of the offense. Puka Nacua in his first NFL action. How much of that is, okay, wow, we got to see something. How much of it is, this is maybe not 120 yards every week, but these guys are going to be heavily involved in the offense week to week?
I think the latter. I think Puka Nacua is a difference maker. You look at his route tree, he can line up in any spot, at any position, and literally run the whole playbook, which I think is fantastic. He gives you something vertically and also over the middle that you're going to need against the likes of Seattle, but even more so this week. And Tutu Atwell's speed, I think, is an X factor. It's something different that if you're trying to out-leverage one of the best defenses in the league, you might need some of those speed outs. You might need to take 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, depending on how they're playing you in coverage, until you can make the 49ers do something different than the will they've been imposing for a year and change now. I'm not sure how you get that first down. I'm not sure how you get more efficient on the early downs against maybe the best defense in the National Football League.
Correct.
But I do think Tutu's unique ability is part of that, and I am counting down the days personally until we can see Tutu, Puka, and Cooper Kupp all together on the same field, because that's going to be a problem.
JB, that's my question. Last night I'm doing my late night looking at this 49ers defense, and I'm saying if there's one aspect of what I think is the best defense in the NFL that Sean McVay may try to exploit or go after, what would it be on the San Francisco 49ers defense?
I mean, I love Bobby Wagner. I know you do too.
Right.
But Fred Warner is built different. And he's a whole different challenge in terms of where might you find windows to run or pass. And Hufanga behind him, same deal.
Yeah.
And so while I do think you take inspiration from and confidence from what they did with their game plan last week, I also think that you cannot win with last week's game plan or statistics.
No.
If you find yourself in 17 third downs today, many of them second and third and long, you're going to lose. Right. And as I told Travis earlier this week, I don't know if Matthew Stafford will be healthy enough to play next week. I don't say that lightly. That's just the reality of playing this defense. You're going to have to do it differently, more efficiently. You can't get 2.3 yards per carry on the ground because it's going to put your quarterback in harm's way.
JB Long, the voice of the Rams, getting us ready for the Rams and the Niners kickoff coming up just a little bit after 1 o'clock. Let's go to the other side for the Rams and how they attack Seattle's offense. What is Raheem Morris, if we're making a priority list, is it stop Christian McCaffrey first? Is it George Kittle? Is it Debo? Who is the guy that, okay, first things first, we got to deal with him?
I think you've got it. I mean, if you were to distill this down into like one thing, for me, it's who can puncture the other's pocket better. Like Aaron Donald and Bosa, two of the best to ever do it. Bosa just took his crown as the highest compensated. Who are we going to call more today? Whose presence will be felt more today? But that ties everything together. For Aaron Donald to have any imprint on this game, and he has not impacted games against the Niners in recent years, except for the NFC Championship game, which I don't want to be guilty of glossing over, because you haven't been able to put them in those unfavorable down and distances. And so if Christian McCaffrey has a big rushing performance, if he has a hat trick, rushing, catching, and throwing like he did the last time he was at SoFi Stadium, it's lights out. It's game over. But if you can put Purdy in a position where he has to hang on to it for an extra beat, Aaron Donald's got a chance, especially against the right side of this offensive line.
JB Long will be on the call alongside Maurice Jones-Drew and DeMarco Farr. Kickoff coming up just after 1 o'clock. JB, as always, thanks a bunch.
Control the NFC West in week 2.
In week 2.
Be better.
In
Let's
week
go.
You wait to see some overreaction when we talk next week if they win this one. Absolutely. On the Road is driven by Subaru of Glendale, the #1 Subaru dealer in America. Find your next Subaru at Subaru of Glendale. Of course, the Niners are on the road for their second consecutive week. They were in Pittsburgh last week, all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Roland Williams, the Super Bowl champion, he joins us next. That's coming up on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on 710 ESPN.
Put up big numbers. How big? In their first 2 years on service.
Super Bowl champion, Roland Williams, who's joining us here on set as well. And Roland, I would imagine it feels pretty good to stand where we're standing outside of SoFi Stadium and see that Super Bowl 34 champions, 1999 Rams, your team.
It feels nice, but something I really like is that other one right next to it.
That looks good, too.
Come on. The Rams are relevant. We're fighting hard. We did it in 1999, 2021, and who knows? This year we can make a difference.
So what's it like? And, I tease DeMarco about this every time. Every time I introduce him, I introduce him as Super Bowl champion. That's got to never get old, right? I mean, I see you got all your championship rings on right now. That's got to always feel good.
This is the celebration of winning. I wear my rings. I also like to wear a suit and come fine, ready when we're playing the 49ers especially. We don't like them. But, man, I'm just grateful to the game, man. I have 3 sons now that love the game, and 2 of them are still playing. And the game of football has been the biggest part of my life, and it's always great to come back and celebrate it, talk about it, and hopefully see the Rams get a big victory against somebody that we don't like that much.
How excited have you been to watch this era of football under Sean McVay? He's brought in something different. I mean, you played under Dick Vermeil, but you look what Sean McVay has done with this football team in his last 6 years. Like, what comes to mind when you first think about where this Rams team is at now?
I think about like this whole excitement that the Rams have with youth. We were one of the youngest teams in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. I move here to California, then I get the gift of Sean McVay and the Rams coming. And it's like just seeing his youthful approach to the game, being a real player's coach, not afraid to get outside the box and run an offense that works, that was fast-moving. And so it's been good for me to enjoy watching him progress. I think the NFL is a league that catches up fast. So when you win a Super Bowl and everyone's trying to catch up, and then to watch Sean McVay take the youngest team in the league now to come back and do what they did last week, this kind of thing is that of legend, and it's really impressive.
Roland Williams is our guest, getting us ready for the Rams and the Niners. What makes Sean McVay such a special coach? Because from the moment he showed up as the head coach of this team, the energy changed. Never mind the results; they started winning like crazy, won a Super Bowl. What's the secret sauce for Sean McVay?
I think it comes down to, one, he loves the game.
Right.
And it comes down to being authentic, right? You can have an offensive package, but if you're not able to get that message across to your players, to understand why you do what you're doing, to believe in it, and then also not afraid to change and evolve. For him to make a decision to have Goff and to say, that's not our guy. Let's go get Matthew Stafford. Let's evolve. Let's continue to build. Those are the kind of things that it takes to win. And so I think it's his authenticity and then his ability to change. If something needs to change, he's a guy that has a heart to do that.
The courage to change, right?
That's
stubbornness is not a great thing most of the time. Like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's go to plan B. That takes some courage.
Yes, it does. It does. And he's shown that just time and time again. I think that's what players respect. If I'm a player in the league and I'm playing with a coach that keeps it real with me, he tells you what he's trying to do. He's evolved. What he did with Cooper Kupp, people don't give him enough credit for that. No one saw Cooper Kupp coming.
I know.
This wasn't a thing.
Right. And they saw it before it had even happened. I remember that first training camp came out of Eastern Washington. They're like, no. This guy's like, sure he is. And they were right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to look at a guy, like even if you think about the offensive line, what they did investing in Witt years ago, to say, despite his career, he still has juice left in the tank. Well, a lot of people didn't believe that. The Rams did. And then it's just time and time again, man, just great decision after great decision. I mean, it just timed up perfect, and I'm just happy to be living in L.A., loving the Rams, and watching them kick butt.
But, Roland, you know about this rivalry.
Yeah.
Rams, 49ers.
Yeah.
First thing that comes to mind when it's 49er week.
We don't like them. I mean, it's one of those things where you just got to be honest. It's just you just learn to just not like some people and not like some things. For me, mine doubled up because I played for the Raiders too for 3 years. So it's like 90% of my NFL career has been despising the 49ers. It's the only commonality they all have. And so it's just like I just don't like them, and we just want to beat them. And to their credit, they've sort of handled business against us too many times as of late, and so it doesn't make you feel more pleasant about the team.
When you talk about they've had the Rams number, obviously the NFC Championship game a couple years ago, it went the right way, and the Rams won the most important of the matchups that they've had lately. But I know that, as a broadcaster, as a fan, I get caught up in are they in their heads, right? Does it happen to the players? Like, why can't we beat these guys? What is it about them that we just – because with the Rams in particular, nobody has their number other than these guys.
I don't think it's them being in our head. I think that they built their team to match our strengths. It's made to compete in the division. And they have this thing where I've heard they measure their players and who they are based on how they show for this game. I think it's that the 49ers put so much on this game for their players.
Right.
If they don't show up in this game, it doesn't matter what they do for the whole season. So I think that this has been something that the 49ers have had to made a bigger chip on it and has hypened up their players, where for us, it could be just another game. But I think that as of late, I think everybody understands there's no love lost between both of us.
You know, you were an outstanding tight end during your career, and I think back to, or not think back, I look at Tyler Higbee.
Yep.
One of the great tight ends, I think, in the NFL, but we never talk about him enough, but yet all-time leading receiver in
Yes.
Rams history in
Yes.
terms of tight end.
Yes.
The tight end position. He has to have a huge game today. We
Yes.
talk about Stafford. We talk about the running game and Puka Nacua and Tutu and the defense, and it's like, why does it take us so long to talk about Tyler Higbee?
My goodness gracious, man, that is great analysis. And I agree with you 200% as a fan of the tight end. First off, the game has evolved.
Right.
And gratefully with it, so have the numbers gone. So I love Tyler Higbee's game as a receiver, but people don't give him credit. The guy is a heck of a blocking tight end.
He is.
Higbee is at the point of attack. He's physical. He's consistent. Go figure.
Right.
Consistent. And that's why he's the all-time leading receiver, because he's in the right place at the right time. I just think that we have just gotten to this wide receiver-centric universe
Right.
that sometimes we think there's like these speed mismatches, but I'm of the component that when you have a good tight end in there that can be run or pass, he's the perfect threat, and you got to throw him the ball. And so I just think that Higbee's amazing. I think that we all need to start standing right here like we're making our first stand to talk about tight ends as much as we can. And he deserves it, man, because the guy's good.
Yes.
He's very, very good. All right, so you remember the greatest show on turf. You played with some of the greatest Rams players of all time, Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, and many, many others, Orlando Pace, all these guys. Aaron Donald's one of these guys. He's another one of not just one of the great players in Rams history, one of the great players in NFL history. Is there something other than just unbelievable talent that they all have in common? Do they do it the same way? Do they go about it differently?
I think all of them have differences, but here's some commonalities. One is that they're driven by production.
Right.
Period. However you get there, whether you're a kind of person like Isaac who takes care of his hamstrings and does to be a low rep guy in practice, and then whether you're a guy like Marshall who doesn't talk at all and just very cerebral, it's like they all have their own ways, but the bottom line standard of excellence is consistency and performance. They do that all really, really well. And fortunately for me, because I've been around all these guys, all of them are just good dudes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they're just literally good dudes. It's like we get good dudes that are awesome football players, and I think that is unique because I will tell you honestly,
Not all
across
of
the
them
NFL, not all great players are good dudes.
Right.
Newsflash,
Right.
newsflash. And I will tell you that some of the good players for the 49ers aren't the same as the Rams. I'm being completely biased. No, good dudes. Good dudes with 49ers, man. Great dudes.
Roland, what do we got to do, man? We got to do something. I don't know if we put the campaign out. We got to put billboards out. How do we get our guy Torrey Holt in the Hall of Fame? It's
gonna happen, right?
It's going to happen.
Too long.
Yes, it's way too long.
It's taking way too long for Torrey to be in. You saw him, and
Yes.
obviously the greatest show on turf. That's
Yes.
part of the offense you were a part of. Number one, why can't we get him in as soon as possible? But also, what made that group so special?
I just think that besides being amazing athletes, it's just great human beings, guys with great work ethic. Torrey's one of the first guys that I actually saw that on his off day put in incredible work on his craft. At the jug machine, doing all the work. There was no days off for Torrey Holt, and I just love the fact that he came in as a rookie and played so well. But to get him in the Hall, I think that he didn't get in the Hall because I think they want to spread the wealth around.
Yeah. Right.
I think the Rams had a little run that we were almost in every other, Hall of Fame. Dick Vermeil, we got, I think they want to give a little.
Kurt
Isaac
Warner,
Bruce came in. I mean, I think they want to spread the wealth around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that had nothing to do with Torrey or his deservingness. But we all know it's only a matter of time.
He is a Super Bowl champion. Roland Williams joining us here before the Rams and the Niners. Roland, appreciate your time. Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
you, man.
Good to see you. You too.
Thanks, bro.
All right, so we got a lot more to get to today. The Rams and the Niners coming up a little bit after 1 o'clock. Can the Rams go 2-0, not just on the season? Can the Rams go 2-0 in the NFC West? And can some of those guys, like Puka Nacua, like Tutu Atwell, who were so good in the opening week, can they continue to develop and lead the Rams on the offensive side of the ball? Plus, when we come back, we're going to take a look around the rest of the league. Week 2 scores are coming in. That's next on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on 710 ESPN. huge opportunity for the Rams today, Kirk, getting off to the start that they had last week. I think that not just that they won the game. I think people thought that the Rams were certainly capable of going into Seattle and winning a game against the Seahawks, but looking the way that they did, scoring the amount of points that they did, limiting the Seattle to the amount of points that they did, throwing a shutout in the second half the way that they did. Obviously, San Francisco is a different opponent for on both sides of the ball. But if the Rams can find a way to win this game, it's amazing how quickly just the what this season might have turned into will have changed, because at 2-0 with a chance to go to Monday Night Football next week against the Bengals.
Possible 0-2 Bengals.
Possibly 0-2 Bengals, and not just say, okay, we're off to a good start, but Matthew Stafford looks good. The offensive line looks good. You have some playmakers in guys like Nakua and Atwell. That Kupp is eventually going to come back and hopefully be Cooper Kupp. It really does put you on the doorstep to get off to a great start that, quite frankly, might not have felt possible just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think when you look at it right now, I thought JB said it's a great point. The goalposts have moved in 1 week. Now, again, I keep telling myself I cannot overreact. It was 1 week. It was one game. But, man, they look so good. It's hard not to overreact. It wasn't like it was a last-second field goal that went through and you said, wow, Rams, they found a way to win. They dominated a team that made the playoffs last year. And can they have a repeat performance this year? This week. They're playing at home. A little bit different. But last week, there were 10 teams that played one on the road and took care of business. I just hope it's not today. I hope the 49ers don't come in and do that, because I think the Rams showed a lot of people that, hey, this is a good football team because they have what you need in this league. You need a quarterback.
The CQI, like JB talked about last week, right? The coach, the quarterback, and the injury report. If those three things are on your side, you got a chance.
Travis, when you turn on, Travis and Slee, Mason and Ireland, any other shows, Sedano and Cap, and then shows just around the country, the first thing we're talking about, did you see that Niners defense? No, it was Brock Purdy. When we talk about the Rams, oh, man, Stafford was amazing.
Yep.
It's always about the quarterback position, and that's what has made me keep an open mind, because a healthy Stafford is what we saw last week, and we hope to see it again this week.
All right, so let's take a look around the rest of the league right now. Our top games from Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Good times. Let's start with this one, Kirk. The Ravens are leading the Bengals at the half 13-10. Bengals looked dreadful last week. They got absolutely stomped by the Browns. No Dobbins for the Ravens. He's obviously out for the entire season. And, here the Ravens are looking up at the Bengals. And like we talked about with the Rams, the Bengals might go 0-2 and both losses in the AFC North. They're kind of on that precipice. It's 2 weeks, understanding all of that, but an odd start for a team that I think a lot of people thought was going to be a factor in the AFC.
Well, you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball early on, but yet this is who the Bengals were last year. They started the season 0-2.
Right.
And I think they were 1-3 at one point, and we're like, what is this team? Who are they? And then they went on a run. And then they went to the conference championship game and kind of come within a couple plays of playing in back-to-back Super Bowls. So I think for them, it's about getting comfortable. We've got to remember, Joe Burrow didn't practice for about a month and a half.
Almost the entire
training camp.
Yeah.
So the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, to me, Travis, seemed to be more like, to me, a preseason. But it is a getting-to-know period, right? It's the honeymoon period, if you want to call it. And so I think that's what I'm seeing from the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a lot that they need to figure out what their identity is. That's what I always say. People always say, oh, it's the Rams. Oh, it's the 49ers. It's the Steelers. Every single year in the National Football League, your identity has to change. You can have a core concept, but there are still a change to that because everybody knows who you are.
Also at the half, the Lions have a 14-7 lead over the Seahawks in Detroit. Yeah. We saw the Seahawks last week, and we'll see what they are. Maybe they're not the playoff team that they were from a year ago. But what about the Lions, Kirk? And I don't know if this is just me having watched the NFL for the last 40 years or so and really seeing maybe 2 or 3 Lions teams that were even decent over that time that I'm skeptical. Are they a good football team? Are the Lions going to be one of those teams that we're talking about once we get into December and beyond?
Oh, I still want to see more.
Yeah.
But look, they're playing at home. Barry Sanders Day. I mean, you got a lot going on.
Statue Day.
You got people wearing ski masks inside the stadium because of C.J. Gardner-Johnson saying, hey, this is what we need to wear to the stadium. This is who we are. We're villains.
Right.
So they're taking on this whole Detroit versus everybody. Remember those? You see those T-shirts that run around a little bit, the T-shirts of Detroit versus everybody. But I like the mentality. I love the head coach. And, again, I can't help, Travis, but rooting for Jared Goff. We've had a chance to see him as a rookie. We watched him grow. We watched him be an offensive player of the year, make Pro Bowls, all kind of things, and led this team to a Super Bowl. They didn't win, but to watch him and to kind of say, like, we watch that dude. He could barely take a snap.
He's
the leader of a good football team.
When he start those last 7 games of Jeff Fisher's final
2016,
season, 2016, and I remember looking, going, wait, this was the number 1 pick?
Like, y'all traded up for this?
This does not look like a good idea.
Wait, Carson Wentz is over there, though.
Looking like an MVP.
Correct.
Right? Looking like an MVP. And now fast forward, Carson Wentz is out of the league. Jared Goff is getting closer to setting a record for most passing attempts without throwing an interception. The Lions have a chance to go to 2-0 and are a trendy pick in the NFC. This league changes pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it changes quickly. Look, day to day. And where we say play to play sometimes, not even week to week. But Jared Goff has really been showing, a lot of poise. He seems to be the right fit for the quarterback of that football team because he has like this underdog mentality.
Yep.
This kind of like I was kind of thrown away from one team, but I know who I am, and I think he's the perfect leader. And they are a really good football team. They've drafted well, and a lot of their draft picks over the last couple of years are actually key contributors. A lot of people know the name Amon-Ra St. Brown here in Los Angeles, what he did at USC.
Sure.
He's one of those guys.
So let's move on to the next game here. The Chargers and the Titans just about to get started in the third quarter there. The Chargers with a 14-10 lead. Right. The Chargers are one of those teams that I don't know, man. Like, they've got a ton of named players. We talked about the Niners today and all the star players that they have. The Rams over the last couple of seasons, all the star players they have. Chargers can match up stars with just about anybody in this league, and yet they don't match up wins the way that the rest of the teams do in the league. They got a chance to get their first win, 14-10. They're in Tennessee.
Well, it's going to be a scrappy game because this is a team they're without Austin Eckler as well.
Right.
The Chargers, so they got to figure out a way to win without having one of their best players. But again, I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. I just don't, because you have the second, highest earning player in the National Football League right now, Justin Herbert. You got to make things right. You got to make things whole. Yes, you don't have Austin Eckler. You had a bad, last week.
It's what they're paying you for, right?
Tua outplayed you. This is what they're paying you for. So, to me, this is a huge game for them. To go 0-2 in the AFC West, that's not what they want right now. So, look, for them, they got to go out and win this football game, and it has to be on the shoulders of their quarterback, Justin Herbert.
All right, the Chiefs and the Jags at the half as well. The Chiefs do have the lead, but it's just 7-6 in that one. The Chiefs did not look like the Chiefs a week ago without Travis Kelce.
Correct.
There was some extenuating circumstances, a drop pass, it was a pick six, that they could very easily be 1-0. But a couple of games into the season, understanding it's only 2 games, the Chiefs do not look like that typically unbelievably explosive team that we've come to see over the last 4 or 5 seasons.
Well, I'll say 2 things here. Number one, having Jones and Kelce back, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, that helps out a lot, which they didn't play in week 1.
Yep.
That helps. But then number 2, the Jaguars were a couple plays last year.
They hung.
Of extending and getting to the conference championship. They very well could have been playing those Cincinnati Bengals we just talked about. So to see that this game is at 7-6, not surprising. And also remember, Doug Peterson, head coach of the Jaguars, and Andy Reid disciple. Yep. They know each other really well. They're very similar offenses. So I'm not surprised. And plus, let's be honest, I watched that Jaguar team last week against the Colts. They are a really good football. They made a ton of mistakes. Trevor Lawrence didn't play his best game. But Calvin Ridley came out of nowhere after a couple of years of being 1 year suspended and 1 year a little hiatus. It's a good football team. So I'm not surprised at the score. I would be surprised if the Chiefs do go 0-2, but then you realize, hey, the Jaguars, they're not the same Jaguars of old.
No, it's not unlike the Lions we were talking about. You just get used to looking at that team and thinking, oh, they're not very – well, they might be pretty good. They got the coach, they got the quarterback, and the eye. We'll see how that shakes out over the rest of the season. Anthony Richardson and the Colts 28-10 over the Texans at half right there. Anthony Richardson knocked out of that game with a concussion. Terrible to see that under any circumstances, but especially a young player like that who seems to be off on a pretty good beginning part of his career.
Yeah, look, I like where this football team is at. Remember, they're still without Jonathan Taylor, their running back. They got an outstanding defense. They have a lot of trust in their head coach, Shane Steichen. And so not to have the young Anthony Richardson, that is a little bit tough only because you put so much into allowing him to get out there and kind of take his lumps. Not like this, though, right?
Right.
So one thing that we can say that with Anthony Richardson, he's got to protect himself. And the more and more he realizes that, I think he'll find more ways to stay in the pocket, not necessarily get out of the pocket, and try to decrease some of these big hits.
Looking at some of the games coming up later this afternoon, Kirk, the Jets are on the road in Dallas against the Cowboys. Cowboys looked really good last Sunday night against the Giants. They threw a shutout. They got that unbelievable defense. They got Micah Parsons going up against Zach Wilson. And obviously the Jets thing has changed dramatically with what happened to Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football. They can't really play this season with Zach Wilson, right? They're going to have to try to go find somebody else.
I mean, this team was a borderline playoff team last year with Zach Wilson and a combination of Mike White and Joe Flacco. But I think that there is a full confidence and a trust. That's what I saw from Zach Wilson this offseason, this summer, training camp, fall camp, hard knocks. I think now he realizes I'm a better quarterback. I know what I can do now. And honestly, I really feel like the pressure's not on him. The pressure was more on Aaron Rodgers to make it work. He's just coming in and saying, hey, look, you got me now. I'm here.
Yeah.
You can't do – I mean, I'm not the guy. I know I'm not the guy. But I feel more comfortable in the situation knowing I can just play free. I don't have to feel like I have to be Aaron Rodgers. I know it's tough to say, but I really feel like he has a better state of mind now than maybe last year when he felt like the weight of the franchise was on his shoulders.
It's funny to think that all of a sudden he's in there and you got to go to Dallas and deal with that Cowboy defense and Micah Parsons, and that if you wanted to slowly build confidence, this is not the group of guys that you want to go build it against after seeing what they did to the Giants a week ago.
But I also would say this on the other side. I think the Jets defense is the top 5 defense in the league, and we saw that defense and that special teams unit actually won them the football night versus the Buffalo Bills. Aaron Rodgers goes out, the defense steps up, you score on special teams, you win the football game. So you realize, hey, everyone else around the team, the Jets, have to step up and do their part. They have a championship caliber defense that will allow Zach Wilson not to have to feel like he's got to do it on his own.
No, he's going to have to get some help to be sure. But you and I, week 6 or 7, we're going to have this conversation again because I have a feeling they're going to have a different quarterback. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe somebody that drops out along the way. Maybe there's a backup somewhere else that they try to get their hands on via a trade. Because everybody, even the teams that lost opening week, lose in week 2, you're still very much in it in the NFL.
You're all the way in it.
Until you're positive you're out of it, you're in it. And you've taught me that doing this together.
Yes.
But once somebody
like the
says,
Jaguars last year.
The Jaguars are a great example. But once somebody says, okay, we are actually out of this, I think that's the point where you're going to start to see some guys shake free.
Yeah, you'll start to see it throughout the league early on. That's why the first week, I'm not. Second week, look, we still got a lot of football left. No overreaction.
Right.
No overreactions, Kirk. No overreaction.
So much fun to overreact, though, Kirk. It's fun to get excited about a loss and a win and everything else because that's how it's going to be for the next 4 months until the next week. And then we change our tune all over again. Maurice Jones-Drew will join us right here on set. That's coming up next on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on 710 ESPN. outside here of SoFi Stadium, getting ready for the Rams home opener, of course, week 2 of the NFL season. Opener, of course, week 2 of the NFL season. Rivalries here in the NFL. Rivalries here in the NFL. Rams right now. Joe Rams broadcast team. What's the home opener like, Drew? What's it like that first time you get to go out in front of home fans again? First time you get to go out in front of home fans again?
So you want to go out there and put your hands on the face, all the things that go into it. And walk around the stadium, and then the walk around the stadium starts to been a couple times, been a little bit outnumbered. Right? But at the same time, right? This is at the same time in the NFC West. So if you get an early division home game, you got to make sure you win the division home game. You got to make sure you win.
We saw last week in Seattle.
Surprised you, huh?
Surprised me. We know their team. Still playing that way. But to watch them but to watch them to see the way they handle it defensively, special teams wise, fixing things, got the fixing. How surprised were you that they played so well in Seattle? And while the Rams are much better than you think, Seattle's are much better than not just
I think the Rams are there. I think the Rams are there. I also think the Rams are better with Seattle. Right? I would imagine going back to last year, the others out there playing and taking another team that they needed to win to go to the playoffs. So come back and one of them, you're going to have a better advantage in there. But I also believe this: the offensive line is different. Right? The offensive line is bigger, more powerful. They're moving guys off the ball, a little bit more downhill run game.
Yes.
Right? And that's what you need. You know, like you can still go side to side, but every now and then you got to go downhill, and we got to try to break your will a little bit. And you saw that, and then that opens up the play action pass, the crosses, passes across the middle, all the little things that you want to do. And you have Stafford who can make every throw. So now he's protected, right? He did. I want to say he got hit twice, maybe, and it was like here, I'm gonna just brush off your shoulder, right? It wasn't.
He was clean.
Yeah, he was clean, and so if you can do that again today, which is going to be a different challenge, a different test. If you can do that again today, now you have an opportunity to really go out there and put some points on the board.
Maurice Jones-Drew joining us, getting us ready for the Rams and the Niners. You mentioned this is a different team. This is a different challenge. This is a team that, again, it's 1 week, so take it for what it's worth, but probably had the best opening act last week against Pittsburgh. They looked terrific. This has been a matchup that the Rams have struggled with over the last few years.
6.
Yeah, 6 years for sure.
I got you.
Why? Why is this the matchup that they can't seem to get on the right side of? Because no one else has had the way that the Niners have had with the Rams. It's just San Francisco.
Okay.
How come?
So one thing, we had a lot of high hopes for Pittsburgh last year, or for this year. Going into, it was like, oh my God, George Pickens, all this going on, and they went out there and they just put it on them.
When you say we, who is we?
And with the national media.
Okay.
We. Not me.
I know. That's all
we,
to make
right?
sure. Right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. And the Niners went out there and they won it handily. What they do, though, they're physical.
Correct.
They are going to be ultra physical, and the Rams were, I can't say they are a finesse. They were a finesse team for a long time. They're trying to go more to that physicality style where we're going to run at you, we're going to run downhill, we're going to use play action pass. On defense, we're going to fly around and hit you in the mouth. And that's what the Niners have done. I mean, again, they were all over the place in Pittsburgh. You got to expect the same thing. Fred Warner's flying around. Bosa, really, that was the first game back, so you got to figure out how to get him going again. But Drake Jackson comes in. He went to the other school.
Right.
He gets 3 sacks. Like, how does that happen, right? Like, so it just shows you that they have a lot of pieces that come around, and then the way they practice. I think that's the other part. This offseason, you get a chance to go like the NFLPA. They go watch practice. They were getting after it a little bit in OTAs, right? They were getting after it. So, they practice hard, and they go out there and they play the same way. And so I think with the Rams, the biggest issue is they're going to come at you. They're going to find a way to get Aaron Donald on the backside of runs. They're going to double team him, make sure he's taken care of. They're going to force everyone else to win. And then the way the Rams play defense, how they play off, they're going to throw short passes. The Niners don't like to go down the field. They like to do the catch and run. So it's just a different matchup. I want to see if Raheem Morris goes to a tighter coverage today. I want to see if in the offensively, are you going to run downhill and go at them instead of running side to side to allow Fred Warner to use his superpower, which is his speed, right? His ability to go. Now, when you go down at Fred Warner, he's not as good. Not as good because it's hard for him to get off blocks because he's so fast. So I think, again, hopefully the Rams come out here and they kind of get into a rhythm and get ready to roll.
I'm a little jealous of the 49ers because they have a lot of superstars.
Oh, my God.
A lot of
everybody.
Superstars. And the reason why I say that is because before when we talk about the Rams, it's always we could have said, hey, Ramsey, Donald, you can go Kupp, Woods, Stafford, Gurley. Just thinking about all the players. I look over at the 49ers now, and it's like, when I say Bosa, Warner, okay, Ufunga, Kittle, Trent, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo. Like I'm saying. So to me, it almost feels
Armstead. I was just going to say.
I mean, like, these are one-name players. That means you've reached a level in the NFL that we can call you by one name because you've distinguished yourself. So to me, I almost feel like it's a David versus Goliath kind of situation because of where the 49ers finished last year without their quarterback finishing that NFC Championship game. They're a carryover from last year where the Rams are still kind of on the surface of are they good, are they not good?
Well, I completely agree with you. I think, but that's also kind of an advantage, right?
Right.
We don't really know what the Rams are. And to be honest, when you have a lot of older players like the Rams have had in the past, when it becomes a physical game, sometimes those older guys are like, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I don't want to get it. You got a bunch of young dogs out here now that are flying around.
Yes.
Right? And they're led by Aaron Donald. And so maybe this may be a hard-hitting affair, right? This may be a physical affair. But at the same time, we always talk. Look, you got to win two things. You got to win the injury report. And you got to win the talent report.
Yes.
Right? You talked about all those named players. They got talent over there. That's why they one name players. So you want to try to win both of those, and that gives you a higher probability to win the game, right? It comes down to executing. But if I can get one of those D linemen in a one-on-one situation, you're expecting those guys to win, right? And it's the same thing with the Rams. If you can figure out a way to get Puka Nacua on someone or Tutu Atwell behind the defense, Tyler Higbee one-on-one, you have to win those one-on-one matchups. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, at the end of the day, like, that's what makes the Niners the Niners. They win their one-on-one matchups all the time. Brent Ayuk, just tore Patrick Peterson up. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Routes on
right?
air.
Routes on air, straight up. Like, we're going to be wide open. Then I'm going to throw a fade, and I'm going to back shoulder. You're going to catch, so the Niners have figured out how to get their guys in one-on-one matchups, and they're winning them.
Maurice Jones-Drew joining us before the game. Rams and 49ers kickoff coming up just a little bit after 1 o'clock. There was a report earlier this morning, Mo, from Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, that Cam Akers is not expected to be active for today's game. We're still waiting to see the official report. But if, in fact, that is accurate, what does that mean for the Rams at the running back position today? Just a whole lot of Kyren Williams?
No, I mean, Royce Freeman, I think, has the ability to do some things in the passing game. Kyren Williams is going to touch him. He touched the ball a lot. He ran well against Seattle. Royce Freeman, though, I remember this preseason we were kind of trying to figure out where he fit in the game plan. I was like, they haven't had a guy like that since Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they haven't had a big physical guy. Malcolm
Goal
Brown,
line
goal line.
Anderson.
C.J. Anderson. But even C.J. wasn't picking up blitzes the way Royce Freeman did, right? So you got to, again, this may be a good sign for the Rams that you can get a guy in there that can go pick up. Now, Cam Akers' situation, like, it's kind of been every year has been dealing like this. And you as a fan of the game, you want players to be happy where they are, right? As a fan of the Rams, you want people to be excited to be a Ram.
Sure.
Right? And so if that doesn't mix, I had a coach tell me, like, sometimes we don't have to like each other to play this game, but we need to go out there and play well. And if it doesn't work, it's time to move on and get this thing going in the direction you want it to go.
Really quickly, the Rams got to protect. This is the best defense in the National Football League. So to me, it's the test that can Sean McVay crack the code of now Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. I mean, they're not doing anything different than they've ever done. Right? It's kind of like when Brendan Staley was here, Raheem Morris just took over the defense, calls the same calls. It's the same thing there. You know what they're going to do.
Right.
They're going to play press man on third down. They're going to be in cover 3 on first and second down. And then offensively, you know what they're going to do, too. They're going to do the same scheme they've done every year. And so it's about, can you make adjustments to put your players in position? The one time you were able to make adjustments was the NFC Championship game. And since then, or before that, and since then, it hasn't worked out. So it's funny. I've done a bunch of the, being in the Bay Area, you do all these radio stations, and everybody's talking, and and I'm like, listen, man, the Niners are great in the regular season.
Correct.
Great in the regular season.
Yes.
Right, and they're going to still be great because of the way they do things. But this is a big test for the Rams. If they can find a way to win this game, this is going to be a huge boost for what they're doing and what they're trying to do as they talk about not being a rebuild, but a reload.
Well, chance to go 2-0, not just on the season, but 2-0 in the division as well with a win today. So a double whammy for sure. 49ers and Rams kickoff coming up at 1:05. Maurice Jones-Drew will be alongside JB Long for the call. Maurice, as always, thanks a bunch.
No problem, guys.
All right, Kirk, so now we know for sure that Cam Akers has been inactivated for
Right.
this game. He will not play today. And this feels awfully familiar to what we saw a year ago when he started the season as the number one back and very quickly was not that. And then shortly thereafter was sent home. He requested a trade. Rams weren't able to get anything done. And here we are this season. He played last week and played reasonably well. You know, Kyren Williams featured a little bit more. Certainly was out there for more snaps along the way. And week 2, inactive. And he just tweeted not long ago saying he was surprised by it as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's internal, and I don't know what the situation is at all. Well, I can only speculate. I would say last week, when you look at the way that it played out, Kyren Williams was sort of the better back.
Mm-hmm.
But in a got-to-have-it situation on that fourth down, Sean McVay flipped the ball to Cam Akers. So it's, one of those things that you don't want it to blow up right now and make it an issue all season long, because I think you have a lot of momentum. You have a lot of momentum coming off of what happened last week in the win, and now it seems that the questions are going to be why.
Does it trickle down to the rest of the guys? Or, it's professional football. Guys come, go. Guys are active. They're inactive. They get hurt. They come back. Guys have disagreements with teammates and coaches. Does it kind of like, wait, whoa, Cam's not playing today? Is there any of that? Or is it just, hey, whoever's out here, it's got to go out there and play?
I think so. It's whoever is out there has to go play. I'm just as shocked as you are, though, Travis. I just can't believe that after what he did last week, the way he was able to play and the way this chemistry looks for this team, shocked to not have Cam Akers out there. But next man up, Kyren Williams, it's your turn, and then go ahead with Royce Freeman.
Yeah, the good news is that Kyren Williams looked really good in week 1 against the Seahawks. We saw Royce Freeman a little bit Oregon Duck in the preseason. He looked pretty good as well. So certainly lots of options at running back moving forward. Let's talk a little bit about how you slow this 49er team down. That's coming up next on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on 710 ESPN.
Kickoff, take it away, big voice guy. It seemed like the world was picking against the Rams in week 1.
The Rams were doubted and discounted, and they are 1-0, flying home on adrenaline from the Pacific Northwest.
It's about the way you guys picked one another up. Stop after stop after stop defensively.
They said this was a no-name defense. Well, how about no points surrendered in the second half of the opener?
After a dominating division win in Seattle, it's time for the Rams home opener at the Palace in Inglewood and another division foe.
Hi, this is Coach Sean McVay. Whose house? Rams house.
Yes, indeed. Here we go. 1 hour from kickoff at SoFi Stadium. The Rams home opener against those stinking San Francisco 49ers. All the talk about the Niners always beating the Rams in the regular season, but we remember when we beat them when it counted, truly, to go to the Super Bowl and then win the Super Bowl. So you know what? Let's do it today.
He flips it forward. It's tipped. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. Aaron Donald got pressure on Garoppolo, and Traven Howard clinches the NFC Championship game.
Whose house? Rams house. Let's make it 2-0.
The Corona Extra Rams countdown to kickoff.
Hi, this is Matthew Stafford of your Los Angeles Rams, the home of Rams football, the ESPN LA Rams radio network.
Corona Extra. Find the fine life. Live la vida más fina. Now, from inside the Palace in Inglewood SoFi Stadium, with one of the fiercest linebackers to ever play the game, Kirk Morrison, here is your host, Travis Rogers.
Home opener for the Rams here at SoFi, the 49ers. Yeah. Quite a way to open a show for a new season here at SoFi with the arch rival San Francisco 49ers coming in, who looked terrific in week one, Kirk. And I want to go back to something that the big voice guy said during the introduction right there.
Yeah.
Everybody was picking against the Rams last week. And I don't know if it was everybody, but it was a lot of people, right?
Correct.
The Rams were in transition. The Rams were a team that was maybe not rebuilding, but remodeling in the world.
Like
the word of Les Snead, right?
Uh-huh.
That did not look like a team that was anything other than pretty darn good last week. How much of that motivation do you think contributed to what we saw? You guys think that we're getting ready to try to find a way to draft Caleb Williams? Well, watch this.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was that's the chip on their shoulder that they've carried into the season. When you hear so many people who have told you, hey, this is what you're going to be, you're like, no, you said that,
right?
Not us. You see it a lot, right? Around football, NFL, college. You got to have that dog in you, that dog mentality. And that's the dog comes out of you when you have so many people telling you what you're going to be. We see it throughout the NFL every single year. The chip on the shoulder is what drives so many players. I mean, look, last week we saw Aaron Rodgers go down, and yet he's calling all the haters and doubters. That's what's going to drive and fuel him to get back from his Achilles injury. So to me, that's what I think the Rams had to hear all offseason. That's what they've had to hear throughout the preseason. And in week one, they didn't – I won't say they silenced the doubters, but they definitely made them take a look like, okay, let's rethink what we may think about the Rams.
That's it, right? Like, okay, wait, did we have this one wrong? Could they be a lot better than we thought? Or is it Seattle is maybe not quite as good as people thought? Or the Rams did they play their best game of the year? Like, we're going to find a lot of answers to those questions about 4 hours from right now when this one against the Niners wraps up. Right now it's time for Morning Thoughts presented by Quaker, a super trusted superfood and the official oatmeal of the Los Angeles Rams. So my thought this morning, Kirk, when I was driving in and thinking about this game was, how do you slow down this 49er offense that is this loaded with star players? Christian McCaffrey is a monster. Debo, we've seen what he's been doing to the Rams in his career. He's scored a touchdown, at least one touchdown in every game that he's played against them. Brandon Ayuk has become a very dangerous weapon.
The dude.
George Kittle is still one of the best tight ends in football. And you got a quarterback with maybe not a name brand, but he hadn't lost a single regular season football game in his NFL career as a starter in Brock Purdy. Where do you start to slow those guys down?
Yeah, Brock is pretty good.
Yeah, he is.
He is pretty good. He's outstanding so far. Look, man, he's not even been in this league for more than 16 games. I still consider him a rookie quarterback.
Right.
But yet he's got great command of this offense. Look, think about I'll just put it this way. Brock Purdy made Jimmy Garoppolo expendable. He also made the 49ers trade Trey Lance,
who they spent the third pick in the draft on.
Yeah, they traded up to get Trey Lance.
Right.
So, look, what he's been able to do, I think that it's been phenomenal. I've loved watching him on tape over the last couple of weeks, Travis, because I'm like, well, this is Mr. Irrelevant. This is the last guy taken in the draft. So think about how many teams passed him up, even in rounds. But to see the way that he's playing, and I think this team has total confidence in him. I think he also realizes I have the best defense in the National Football League. I've got some dudes over there. I got some studs on the other side that I don't have to be phenomenal. I just have to get the ball out to my playmakers. And I've got guys that once I get the ball in their hands, they're able to make plays.
So that's something that they've been able to do, whether it's Jimmy G, whether it's been Brock Purdy, whoever the quarterback's been over the last few years, is get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. They're not taking a bunch of shots down the field. They're not trying to rip off 40, 50-yard plays.
Correct.
They're throwing the ball 8 or 9 yards down the field and letting these guys run in space. How does Raheem Morris design a defense to prevent that from happening?
Well, it's crazy. We were just talking about Brock Purdy. You got to design a defense to say, you know what? Let's let Brock Purdy beat us.
Yeah.
If Brock Purdy throws for 340 yards today, you know what?
Good for you.
Good for you. I walk across the field at the 50-yard line. I'll shake your hand. Hey, job well done, young man. But that's what you can't allow. You can't allow the other parts of this game to hurt you. You can't allow Christian McCaffrey to rush for over 100-plus yards. You can't get certain guys going. To me, it's all about getting into third and longs, but stopping the run is going to be huge today. I thought the Rams, a little leaky last week at times. Today will be their biggest test. All right, biggest test in a long time because the 49ers, that's who they are. That is their identity. As much as we're talking about the Kittles and the Ayuks and the Deebo Samuels, you still got to realize they want to run the football.
Yeah.
And what do we always say after a game against the 49ers in the regular season? They were the more physical team.
Always.
And so that's what it is about. It's who's going to be the more physical team today? Is it the Rams and their new revamped offensive line with some big bodyguards up front, or will it be the 49ers and their offensive line that has come in and dominated in the regular season against the Rams?
The 49ers have been a very physical team over the years, and certainly against the Rams over the last few years. But it does feel, and again, it's 1 week, and we'll see what it is, but when you watch a guy like Steve Avila, when you watch Joe Nopu move inside from left tackle to right guard, you know that Rob Havenstein's a big, strong, nasty guy. That
Correct.
They've kind of gone about it a little bit differently up front. That they've gotten a little nastier, a little more physical this year than in previous years.
Right.
And I think this is the ultimate test for whether or not you are what you want to be against this 49er on both sides, right? Both offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
The 49ers are going to try to line up and out-physical you. And to your point, they've been successful doing it the last few years. We'll see what it looks like today.
Well, it opens up their entire offense. When they're running the ball well, they're able to do play action. They're able to put the quarterback on the move. They're able to do a lot. And I think for the 49ers, they have a situation where they're able to be aggressive because they realize I got a defense that can get the ball back to me as well.
Yeah.
So that's what scares me the most is that you're willing to take more chances. Is Sean McVay there yet with this team? I know it's only 1 week, right? Are you willing to take that chance? Look, to me, he's not willing to go for it, but he's willing to kick the 50-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Right? He went for a couple of those 50-yarders last week. So there's confidence more in the special teams. I would have loved to say, hey, Sean, if you're going to kick the field goal, that's like a 50-50. Why not try to really go for it on those fourth down situations? So that means he does have trust in this defense under Raheem Morris.
The Carl's Jr. Big Char Chili Burger is here. A whole flame-roasted Anaheim chili and big smoky sweet flavor. It's what you get when Carl's Jr. plays with fire. They got a chance to change the story, Kirk, today. You go and beat the 49ers, and the 49ers were the talk of the first week. Aaron Rodgers' injury was the talk of the first week. You know, some teams like Philadelphia maybe not looking quite like we thought. Kansas City not looking quite like we thought. Rams go 2-0 with a win against San Francisco today. They're the story of the week.
Yeah.
They've got that opportunity right there in front of them. We'll have that conversation with the Super Bowl champion, DeMarco Farr. He joins us next from the sidelines. That's coming up on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
The Rams home opener today at SoFi Stadium. Last week, the Rams' high-powered offense was on fire.
He hitches, he steps up, he takes off. Stafford breaks left. Stafford scrambling. Stafford with a sprint for 10 yards and near a first down.
Matthew Stafford looked better than ever, and the young guns were dazzling.
Puka's got the catch. Puka breaks a tackle at the 10. Right sideline 5, extends the football. He's out at the 2.
Today, the Niners defense is going to be a little bit more of a test than the Seahawks last week, but time to take care of business, go 2-0 to start the season, and beat the division foes, the hated ones, the Niners.
Rams football, week 2.
Corona Extra. Find the fine life. Live la vida más fina.
Once again, back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
We are under an hour away from kickoff. Kickoff coming up at 1:05. The home opener for the Rams against the 49ers. And on the sidelines, as always, is the Super Bowl champion, DeMarco Farr. DeMarco, how's it looking inside? It's looking like a lot of Niner fans out there. How's it looking inside?
The same. I'm picking fights right now, Travis. I'm staring down kids with red jerseys. Oh, yeah. I'm mean mugging. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm letting them know this is not acceptable. If you were born in Los Angeles and you're wearing that color, I disown you.
It never goes away, does it? The rivalry. You played in that game, a million times along the way. That red jersey. We were talking with Roland Williams a few minutes ago. He sees it just like, no, man, you still feel the same way, don't you?
I just passed Jackie Slater. He's standing on the sideline, and he looks different. He looks like he's ready to get into it. So that's how I learned about this rivalry. I had no idea. But, hey, look, I learned what Niner Week meant. I understood what it meant to beat these guys and why you have to beat them to be successful. It's even more important right now because they're so good. But, yeah, this is a big deal. This is everything you got as a Ram to beat the San Francisco 49ers.
I think you said it right there, DeMarco. It's not just the game against the 49ers. It's a big test because you're playing against the number one defense in the National Football League, in my opinion. The stars that they have on that side of the football on defense is a huge test for the Rams. It's a bigger test than what we saw last week, and it can definitely give us more answers for the questions that we may have about who this Rams team is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, this puts Sean McVay on Front Street. How do you handle this? I can't wait to see. I think this game comes down to the first 25 plays, especially on defense, or Rams when the Rams are on offense versus their defense. If you can move the football, if you can find a way to score, if you can find a way to loosen them up, that will change things. Even Pittsburgh, after they survived the onslaught or got through it, they started to move the football. So, look, everybody's beatable in the National Football League. I've been on some great teams that lost when they shouldn't. I've been on some bad teams that beat good teams when we shouldn't. So it's about what happens on game day. And I think you said it, Kirk. This is about physicality, man.
Yeah.
They think they're tougher than you. Period. End of story. There's only one way to go get that back. You got to go out and lay somebody out. You got to lay the wood. You got to out-hit them. That's how you win this football game.
DeMarco, do you get the sense that that's been a priority for this Rams team this season to be more physical, specifically because of this matchup against San Francisco?
You know what? I would say so. I mean, look, everybody in every division is built to beat your division rivals. I mean, look, whoever's got the best team probably wins the division. So you better plan on that or plan on trying to stop it or combat that. So look at the offensive line. It's got a bunch of nasty. I love the fact that A.J. Jackson is out there at left tackle. I don't mind the face mask last week. At some point in a football game, you got to send the message to that other guy. It ain't going to be easy. Even if you beat me, I may grab you. Steve Avila in there. He's in there for a reason. He's a mile wide, and he's mean. Rob Havenstein has always been that type of guy. So, yeah, they are built to combat what is coming the other way from San Francisco.
I think having Ahkello Witherspoon, who's a former 49er, he knows about the rivalry, but he can also give, I think, some perspective into that secondary, who I thought played well. You saw the young players. They were scrappy. They kept getting after it. I love Darian Kendrick. He would give up a play, but he came right back. They frustrated DK Metcalf and just a couple of fines that he got this week. But I think it'll be similar this week in that they got to get into the face of Deebo Samuel, of Brandon Ayuk. They can't back down. They can't allow them to just run freely. This is going to be, I think, also a battle on the outsides too, DeMarco.
Oh, this is going to be fun, too. DK got fined? Did you say that?
Yeah, he got fined twice.
Good. How much did they fine him? How much did they fine him?
He got a $10,000 for the illegal hit of Witherspoon, and then he had another 15 or another 10 for the unsportsmanlike of taunting or whatever he was doing after.
Okay.
So
they banged him
20,000
for 25.
Yeah,
Good.
about
Great.
25.
That's perfect. That's exactly what needed to happen. I'm over that act.
Right.
But no, I'm with you on the DK, on the Darion Kendrick. Darion Kendrick is coming from that Jalen Ramsey mode, which means he wants the smoke. He wants the top receiver. So Brandon Ayuk looks different. He looks different this year than he's ever had. Maybe that's because of who's not in the division anymore, but he looked good last week. So if I'm Raheem Morris and I want to ride that hot horse, I would put DK right over the top of Brandon Ayuk and say, here's your next assignment. Let's see if you can shut him down.
DeMarco Farr, the Super Bowl champion, joining us from inside SoFi Stadium, getting ready for the Rams and the Niners kickoff coming up at 1:05. What does it mean for the product on the field today that there's no Cam Akers, that he's inactive for today's game? How does that change Kyron Williams' role and everybody else?
You know, look, when I heard it, I'm just so disappointed. I'm, just a shade over disgusted because, look, your teammates need you. They need you against the 49ers. You were a big part of this, and whatever happened. He's not here. But look, it's over, done. You got hit by a bus, don't know you. I'm all on Kyron Williams.
Right.
Kyron Williams, I'm watching him work out right now. He's banging on the goalpost. He looks like he's psyched and ready to go. He had a great game in Seattle. It looks like he is ready to take the reins and be that guy. So in Kyron we trust, in Ronnie Rivers we trust. You can only go with the guys that are here for you on Sunday.
When it comes to trying to slow down this pass rush, right? We know about the Rams pass rush, which is still a work in progress, but seeing Bosa, seeing what Drake Jackson was able to do last week, his 3 sacks, more so because they kept sliding their protection, obviously, to Bosa. He was the one-on-one. Outside of Bosa, who scares you the most on that 49ers defensive front that you say, okay, if we take care of Bosa, but we also got to take care of this guy?
Eric Armstead. He's from the same planet as Calais Campbell. He's a Wookiee. He's a Wookiee with no hair. You know what I'm saying? He's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge. And he was the only guy, I think, on that D-line last week that didn't get a sack, but he was by far the most disruptive. They could not block him. So, look, that's got to stop today. If it is to be, you've got to stop him first. Because if he stops you on first and second down, that's going to put you in line or in the sights of Nick Bosa and Drake Jackson. And they're going to get around the edge. It's almost a virtual certainty they're going to win in a third and long situation. So it's up to McVay. It's up to whoever's calling plays or whoever's making adjustments. Matthew Stafford, you've got to keep those third downs short. You have got to win on 1st and 10. So I'm thinking screen game, get the ball out beyond the numbers, run the football through the air until you loosen them up, and then run it traditionally. But the one thing you cannot do is expect your offensive line, to hold up in third and long situations versus that D-line. It's just not going to happen.
DeMarco, last one for you, that we got so much production out of Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell last week. Not that you forgot that Cooper Kupp wasn't there, but it certainly mitigated his absence. They were so good. What are your expectations for both of them this week against a much better defense?
If I can't have Cooper Kupp, then I want a stunt double, and that's Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
He was doing the same stuff that Cooper Kupp couldn't do or was doing, and he was great after catch. So hopefully that will continue. You're going to need that. Like you said, running through the air, that might be a part of it. Tutu Atwell on those quick outs might be a part of running the ball through the air. But someone else, when the Niners decide they're going to take away the run and let their corners and safeties go one-on-one with your receivers, somebody's got to get loose. Matthew Stafford may take a shot. Hopefully when you throw that high percentage pass, you're underneath it, make a big play, flip field position. That's also something you need to have against the 49ers or against a team that's this good. If you can flip field position in a hurry or score on something long and big, that will help you out coming to the fourth quarter.
DeMarco Farr will be on the sidelines. It's the Rams and the Niners coming up just about 40 minutes from right now. DeMarco, as always, thanks a bunch.
I see you, kid.
You got it. All right. Do you think that you can predict the outcome of today's game? Play Rams Pick'em, presented by Pechanga Casino Resort, for the chance to win tickets to the NFL Championship game and more. Head to the Rams.com/Pick'em to make your game predictions. Let's talk about Cam Akers and his absence coming up next. Kirk, we're going to get to that on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Extra, Rams countdown to kickoff
on your home of Rams football.
Hi, this is Cooper Kupp of your Los Angeles Rams. This is the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Corona Extra, find the fine life. Live la vida más fina.
Rams, Niners.
Here we go for week 2 of the NFL season with the Rams home opener this afternoon at SoFi against the hated ones, those stinking San Francisco 49ers. And last week, the Rams' high-powered offense looked Cooper Kupp-esque with a young batch of wide receivers.
Tutu at the 20, Tutu at the 10, Tutu spun down at the 8, 45 yards on 3rd and 8.
Plus, the running game was on point as well.
Stafford gets the play off, hands off, Kyron left side, jump cut, end zone. He's done it again. Touchdown, Kyron Williams. Touchdown, LA.
We got to keep it rolling today against the Niners' tough defense. Let's get it rolling as we count you down to kickoff. Rams-Niners week 2.
Once again, back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Kirk, if you don't think that I'm excited about this, well, I think you do. Rams fans, El Torito is offering free nachos when your Los Angeles Rams successfully make a 4th down stop. So get loud. This is Nacho First Down. Visit therams.com/rewards for more details. So we're going to be on Nacho Watch today.
Nacho Watch.
For
I
sure.
like that.
Hopefully we get to cash that in. Stop me if you've heard this before. Cam Akers was supposed to be the featured back of the Los Angeles Rams, and then very early in the season, those plans have changed. He is inactive for today's game. He tweeted not that long ago saying that he's as confused as everybody else as to what happens. I just feel like, this is like the TV show or the movie that we've seen before, right. But I do think that maybe this one has a different ending. Like you can't do this over and over and over again.
Yeah, probably a much different ending.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is because look, we went through this last year. We went through this with Cam Akers in terms of did he want to be here, did he not? And remember, he had a little hiatus, was gone. And so the Rams offense had to figure out who they were going to be. And so, look, I'm glad this happens in week 2.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And look, whatever the decision may be, whatever it is, own it, move on from it, and let's go.
I think it's one of the things that the Rams do incredibly well, and it's something that, never mind sports organizations, but just people in general saying, you know what, let's move on. Don't continually try to think, this time's going to be different. Once you know that something's not going to be different, let's try something else, whether it was Todd Gurley, whether it was Jared Goff, whatever it may have been. Let's move on to the next thing. I think that's a really strong suit for the Rams, and it does feel like maybe this is where they are with Cam Akers.
Yeah, and maybe it's what Kyron Williams has presented.
Sure.
It's a guy who's come in and really just been a work hard, work ethic, downhill, probably does everything right, and maybe you elevate him. I mean, last week he was the better running back against the Seattle Seahawks. So I would think that you want to continue to feed him. And for guys who are, if you're on board, you stay on board. If you're not going to be on board the train, and you get off.
Kirk, how big of a surprise was it that the Rams not only scored 30 points last week, but that they had 2 different wide receivers go over 100 yards? Both Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell both had 119 yards on the day.
Right.
Puka Nacua was just terrific in his NFL debut, and Tutu Atwell really did feel like he kind of took his game to the next level. That instead of just being a guy that can run past people and maybe catch some deep balls, he was a complete wide receiver. Can they continue to put up that kind of production without Cooper Kupp? It does sound like he's going to be able to come back for that Week 5 game against Philadelphia, but how big of a surprise was it for you that those guys were that impactful in Week 1?
I think it was a huge surprise for me because I didn't expect that, right? Tutu looked like he'd been in the league for a while.
He sure did.
Puka more so than anything. Puka looked like a veteran. And I think we're just like, what is it? And then the amount of targets that he got last week, he had over 10-plus targets.
Yeah.
So to me, whatever he was doing at practice caught the eye of Matthew Stafford. That's the one thing I've learned about older quarterbacks I know that I played with. If they trust you, they're going to get you the football. And that's what I'm seeing from Puka Nacua, and I think we may see more of that today, from Matthew Stafford. He's going to go throw to the guys that he trusts. But I think today is a day that they got to continue to spread the football around. Yep. Think about there's no Cooper Kupp today. And as well as I think that's what we forget sometimes, how well they played last week without Cooper Kupp. You would love to have him today. But, man, do you have enough in that arsenal of wide receivers and running backs, tight ends, do you have enough that can compete with that ferocious defense of the Niners?
Very quickly, Kirk, Van Jefferson was pretty quiet last week. Only caught 4 passes. You talk about that trust. He did have a drop. Matthew Stafford says that he still completely trusts Van Jefferson. But do you think we'll see him more involved today? Because I think at least on paper it felt like, okay, with Kupp out, Jefferson slides his way into that number 1 wide receiver, and he really didn't have that role last week.
Yeah, he may be the number 1, but I always love Mike Tomlin and his Tomlinisms, right? Mike Tomlin has one. Hey, you've earned the right for us to double team. You've earned the right for us to give you attention. I think no one really knew who Puka Nacua was last week. Tutu Atwell last week. Yeah, when I turn on the tape, these 2 guys were game breakers. So the attention will now be on those guys. So maybe it does give a little bit of relief for Van Jefferson.
All right, coming up next, we're going to give you our final thoughts on the day, getting you ready for the Niners and the Rams on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Contractors on
Rams Radio Network.
Rams football, week 2.
Corona Extra. Find the fine life. Live la vida más fina.
Touchdown, LA!
As we count you down to kickoff, Rams-Niners week 2. Remember, you can hear every moment of the play-by-play with JB DeMarco and MJD just by listening on the all-new ESPN LA app.
Download the ESPN LA app, then bam, you're 1 tap away from the Rams.
Exactly right, Matthew Stafford. Search ESPN LA in your App Store or Google Play. Download, tap, bam! You've got Rams football in the palm of your hand.
Rams football. Once again, back to Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
All right, Kirk, let's talk a little bit about who is available and maybe who will be available before too long. Of course, we're talking about the injury report brought to you by Jacob and Ronnie. Winning matters, especially after an accident. At calljacob.com, we're here for you when you need a big win. After an accident, go to calljacob.com or call 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB. Some good news. It's not going to impact today. It's not going to impact next week on Monday Night Football or Week 4 against the Indianapolis Colts. But Sean McVay did give some indications that he expects to have Cooper Kupp back by Week 5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. That'll actually be the next home game when you and I are here against Philly in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope to have him then. But again, you got to take precaution because he came back and then it aggravated him again. You know, he re-injured that hamstring. you just hope that this isn't a situation where that hamstring is bothering him all year long. So, yeah, you got to be cautious with him. I don't think he'll have a full workload, but he'll be back in this offense. Can the Rams just hold off, try to steal a couple more games before he returns?
Well, that win last week, and I know we've talked a little bit about that one, it was so big because it gives you, I don't know if cushion is the right word, but it gives you a little bit of cushion to get through the first 4 weeks without Cooper Kupp. So when he comes back in some games that maybe felt one way, might be a little bit more winnable, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's Green Bay, we'll see what that looks like by the time you get a little bit closer to the bye. But to get to that bye with 5 wins or 6 wins that felt like maybe a really tall task, that win in Seattle put you in a position to win today, you're off to the races.
Yeah, you feel a lot better about what you're doing right now. And look, I think the confidence is already kind of permeated through the team last week, and then all of a sudden you win against the team that was in the NFC Championship game last year. Yeah, I'm walking around with my chest poked out a little bit too, and if I'm Sean McVay, it's just basically telling everybody what I've been telling you guys all offseason, is that we are a much better team and then what a lot of people are putting them on paper.
That much better team, it starts up front, and this is football 101, right? If your offensive line is good, you got a chance to get a lot of things done, especially if you've got a quarterback like Matthew Stafford. We got to see just how good he is in week 1 when you give him a little bit of time. JB mentioned it. If he gives him some protection and he can find those windows to throw it in, there's not a throw that he can't make. But if he's got to, do things out of the pocket, that's not what he is. If he's got to run for his life, that's not what he is. But those 5 guys last week, they stood up incredibly well. They can do it against this front from San Francisco. Again, now all of a sudden we're talking about totally different things going forward.
You got to keep the upside down U, okay? The upside down U that's what Matthew Stafford wants to stay in. And that's what this offensive line did a great job of keeping that U, that pocket clean for him and allowing him to step up. Like you mentioned, he's not going to get out of the pocket. He's not trying to buy more time. What he's trying to do is go 1 read, 2 read, and then throw the ball away. That's how you do not take hits. The Rams' season falls on the shoulders of Matthew Stafford. It's not like they have this defense and they can, rely on our defense. Let's rely on our special teams. No, it is all on number 9. It's a lot of pressure, but this is the reason why he makes the big bucks, and he's been in the league for reasons like this.
And he can do it.
He can do it. Correct.
The difference last year is when you were watching it, even when the offensive line was bad, you're asking quarterbacks that, quite frankly, were probably incapable of doing the things that they were being asked to do. There's not a throw in the field that Matthew Stafford can't make. I keep thinking of the one that he hit Nakua down the right side. Yeah. And it's like, okay, there are 3 guys in the league that can maybe make that throw?
3 guys can
and
do
he drops it right in there, and that's the difference. That maybe just player to player, talent to talent, these 2 teams aren't on equal footing. But when it comes to quarterback play, if this is a quarterback league, a head coach league, Rams got 2 very high cards in that hand.
Yeah, and you love seeing that you have guys that can make plays for you when sometimes there's nothing there. That's what I'm talking about. And then Aaron Donald showed up last week, obviously. He's going to have to show more this week. But, the emphasis for the 49ers is to stop number 99.
Yep.
So who else? Who's going to step up on the defense? Who's going to make some plays? Can you make Brock Purdy just be ordinary, okay? We don't want him to be superhuman. We don't want him to lead the team up and down. Can you take it down a notch from Brock Purdy?
How do they find a way to do that, to win this game, to really kind of surprise the NFL, put the NFL on notice that this Rams team is very good? What's the path to victory for the Rams today?
It's ball control. We didn't talk enough about that. The Rams held the ball for twice as long as the Seattle Seahawks last week.
Yep.
So you got to do that. You got to have a ton of ball control and a ton of, I think, not necessarily the carries, but just the touches, okay? Not the yards, I should. The yards don't really bother me. It's attempts. It's touches. It's keeping the clock moving. It's converting on 3rd downs. What scares me is the 49ers with the ball in their hands. What doesn't scare me is when they don't have the ball in their hands.
Right.
Our offense, the Rams' offense, has to stay on the field. Has to stay on the field. That's how they win this football game.
With all of those weapons on the offensive side of the field for the 49ers, whether it's Kittle, whether it's Debo, whether it's Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, that there's just one guy after the next, the less those guys are on the field, the better.
We just don't want this to turn into Ringling Brothers, right? And they're just out there having fun at the carnival, at the circus, and everybody's getting a touch. Ayuk, Samuel, McCaffrey, Kittle. You don't want that.
Too many guys to hold down. Too many guys to hold down. The Rams need to have that ball control offense. Put the ball in Matthew Stafford's hand. Let him make some decisions. Let Sean McVay make some decisions, and give that defense a fighting chance along the way against all of those star players. We are only about 25 minutes away from kickoff, and we're going to send it out to J.B. Long, Maurice Jones-Drew, and DeMarco Farr. They will have you the rest of the way. That's coming up on the Corona Extra Rams Countdown to Kickoff on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Some things are better live. That's why at